The Young and the Restless. Spoilers. Shock. Daniel paced nervously around his small apartment in Genoa City, his thoughts racing faster than he could comprehend. The anger, confusion, and betrayal churned within him, twisting his gut like a tightening vice. He couldn't fathom how his life had spiraled so violently out of control. Not long ago, he had been simply trying to mourn the tragic death of Heather, the woman he loved and the mother of his daughter Lucy. But now, he was a suspect in her murder, a crime he didn't commit. The situation seemed like a cruel nightmare, and the most frustrating part was that the pieces of the puzzle weren't aligning. Someone had gone to great lengths to impersonate him, setting him up for a crime so heinous that he now stood on the brink of imprisonment. It was a sinister conspiracy, but no matter how hard Daniel tried to piece it together, he couldn't figure out who was behind it. The more he thought about it, the more enraged he became. This wasn't just about murder. This was a carefully calculated move to destroy him. But who would hate him enough to do this? Who would be so meticulous in framing him that they'd leave him with no room to breathe, nowhere to turn? In the midst of his swirling thoughts, his phone buzzed on the counter. The screen lit up with Chance's name. Reluctantly, Daniel answered. Chance Chancellor, the dedicated but often enigmatic detective, was the one overseeing Heather's murder investigation. While Chance's reputation for fairness preceded him, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched, judged, and manipulated by the very man who was supposed to seek justice. But what angered Daniel even more was that Chance, whether intentionally or not, seemed to be playing into the hands of whoever had orchestrated this twisted plot. Earlier that day, Chance had made a troubling discovery: traces of Heather's blood on the floor of her apartment, faint but undeniable. The sight of that small, dried pool of blood had been enough to send a wave of horror through Daniel. It confirmed that Heather had died in her own home, and her death had been violent, the result of a vicious struggle. Chance had ordered the blood samples to be sent for DNA analysis, but the damage was already done. It was yet another damning piece of evidence against Daniel, adding to the mounting pile that seemed designed to bury him. Despite knowing he was innocent, Daniel felt the weight of the walls closing in on him. Daniel, we need to talk. Chance's voice came through the phone, gruff and unyielding. You can't leave town, not under these circumstances. As of now, you're a prime suspect, and you're under strict surveillance. A monitoring device will be placed on your ankle as a precaution. The words felt like a slap to Daniel's face. A tracking device, like a common criminal? He could barely contain. This is ridiculous, Chance. Daniel spat into the phone, his voice shaking with barely contained rage. You know I didn't do this. Someone's framing me, and you're just playing along with it. You're falling for the trap. I'm just following the evidence, Daniel, Chance replied, his tone even but with an edge that hinted at doubt. The blood, the circumstances, it all points to you. Until we have more, you're the prime suspect. Daniel's heart pounded against his chest. Every fiber of his being wanted to lash out, to scream, but what good would it do? The situation was already slipping through his fingers, and now he was tethered to Genoa City, a prisoner in his own life. The ankle monitor was more than just a physical restraint. It was a symbol of his helplessness, a brand of guilt stamped onto him before any trial, before any verdict. As he was fitted with the device, Daniel felt the crushing weight of humiliation settle over him. His frustration boiled over. This wasn't just about justice anymore. This was personal. Whoever had orchestrated this, whoever had planted all the incriminating evidence, had succeeded in reducing him to this, a man shackled by the very system that should have been working to clear his name. And worst of all, he had no idea who was responsible. Was it someone with a vendetta? An old enemy? Or was it someone he'd trusted, someone close to him, who had turned his life into a living hell? Back at the police station, Chance mulled over the investigation. The blood found at Heather's apartment did indeed point to a violent altercation, and Daniel's anger and emotional instability only seemed to validate the theory that he could have been involved. But something didn't sit right with Chance. Daniel's reactions, while angry and defensive, were not those of a guilty man. His outrage was real, his pain undeniable. If Daniel was the killer, why would he be so cooperative now, so willing to face the charges? Chance rubbed his temples. The evidence was strong, but it wasn't conclusive. There was a gnawing suspicion in the back of his mind. Something about this case didn't add up. Chance had been a detective long enough to know when a case was too perfect, too clean. And this one? It reeked of a setup. Whoever had done this wanted Daniel behind bars, but for what reason? Chance's thoughts drifted to Sharon. She had been entangled in this mess from the beginning, and her behavior had been strange, to say the least. She had been too calm, too calculating when all of this had unfolded. While Sharon had positioned herself as an innocent bystander, Chance couldn't shake the feeling that she was hiding something. Could she be the mastermind behind this elaborate trap? No, that seemed too far-fetched. But it was clear to Chance that Daniel wasn't the only player in this twisted game. Someone else was pulling the strings, and Chance had a hunch that the real killer was still out there.